General George S. Patton, bold, brilliant, and fearless. But what made him truly unstoppable in battle? What was the secret behind his most legendary victory that helped turn the tide of World War II? Let's uncover how Patton's audacious tactics and quick thinking in the Battle of the Bulge turned the war around when everything seemed lost. In December 1944, the Allies were on the verge of victory in Europe. The German military had been pushed back across France, and the Allies had entered Germany. The war, however, was far from over. What no one expected was a last-ditch, desperate attack from the Nazis, a massive counteroffensive designed to split the Allied forces and reclaim lost ground. This attack became known as the Battle of the Bulge, and it would become one of the greatest challenges the Allies faced. The Germans had planned a surprise winter attack on the Western Front, hoping to catch the Allies off guard. Their goal was to capture the critical port city of Antwerp, which was a vital supply line for the Allies. They launched their offensive in the dense forests of the Ardennes, a region considered impassable for tanks, and a place where the Allies thought the Germans wouldn't dare attack. The attack was swift and brutal, and soon thousands of German troops were deep inside Belgium, creating a bulge in the Allied lines. Things seemed bleak for the Allies. As German forces surrounded the town of Bastogne, it appeared that the Nazis might push the Allies into retreat. But that's where Patton would come in. Now, let's set the stage. Patton, in charge of the Third Army, was known for his aggressive, no-nonsense style. His troops had just finished a grueling campaign in France, and they were exhausted. But Patton didn't hesitate when he received word of the German breakthrough. While other commanders hesitated or were bogged down by logistical issues, Patton's response was immediate. Instead of waiting for orders or worrying about supplies, Patton made a bold decision. He gave orders to shift his entire army against all conventional military thinking on a 90-degree turn, heading straight into the path of the German offensive. The Third Army was over 100 miles away from the fighting, and the weather was horrendous. Snow, freezing rain, icy roads, but Patton knew that time was of the essence and the Allies needed help right now. This move was risky. Moving 100 miles in such conditions was a logistical nightmare, but Patton's Third Army began the trek immediately. The march was grueling, with soldiers battling extreme winter conditions, poor visibility, and narrow, icy roads. But Patton's leadership was a motivator like no other. His soldiers trusted him implicitly and followed him despite the harsh conditions. One of the most impressive feats was how quickly Patton's men reached the critical areas around Bastogne, where American forces were trapped. Against all odds, Patton's army arrived just in time to relieve the town. Just when it seemed like the Germans had the upper hand, Bastogne was a key point in the battle. Surrounded and under constant attack, the American forces had held their ground for days, despite being outnumbered and cut off from reinforcements. The Germans had sent a demand for surrender, but the American commander, Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe, famously responded. Patton's arrival was nothing short of a miracle. His troops pushed through the snow, and despite being outnumbered, the Third Army linked up with the 101st Airborne Division, which had been holding Bastogne. This was a pivotal moment. The German advance was halted, and the Allies now had the momentum. Patton's quick thinking and bold action at Bastogne weren't just about relieving a besieged town. His intervention turned the entire course of the battle. Once Patton's forces arrived, the Germans were forced to retreat. The Allied forces, emboldened by Patton's success, were able to push back and eventually crush the German offensive. The Battle of the Bulge was a turning point. Though the Allies suffered heavy losses, they managed to stop the German advance and begin the push toward victory. What made Patton's actions so remarkable was not just the timing, but his audacity. He moved quickly, without hesitation, knowing that if he didn't act fast, the war could take a deadly turn in favor of the Germans. By January 1945, the Battle of the Bulge was over, and the Allies were firmly in control. Patton's Third Army had played a decisive role in halting the German offensive, and the victory gave the Allies the upper hand in Europe for the remainder of the war. Patton's legacy was cemented by this victory. His aggressive tactics, swift response, and ability to motivate his soldiers made him one of the most effective generals of World War II. General Patton's leadership at the Battle of the Bulge showed what true military genius looks like. His boldness, confidence, and quick thinking helped turn the tide of World War II, and his legacy lives on as one of history's greatest military commanders. A true hero who defied the odds and proved that sometimes speed, audacity, and sheer willpower can win the day.